That's Infinity Records here in Massapequa Park. I was just in there with you-know-who, looking for some stuff, found some stuff. We'll show you what's I got. Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video. So recently, I took a little trip out to Long Island and met up with our good buddy Alan Rosenberg, who you saw in the opening. And I also chased the sunset out to Long Beach and visited my friend Darren Paltrowitz. Darren does a lot of like celebrity interviews and stuff like that. You can catch his stuff on his Paltrowcast, which I'll put a link below to check that stuff out. But he gave me this really cool book that I just started reading, Corporate Rock Sucks, all about SST Records. If you're not familiar with SST Records, that's Greg Ginn's label that handled all the Black Flag and Minutemen and Husker Du and the Descendants. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting through this book. I mean, it's just a topic that I'm really interested in, so I was glad to receive that from Darren. But getting back to the real point of this video, when I was visiting Alan, we went to a record store, Looney Tunes, which I had been to before, out by where Alan lives, and we hit up that record store, and then he's like, if we have time, there's this other store I want you to check out. So we went over there, and we went to Infinity Records in Massapequa Park. And another one of those just really cool old school stores. I don't know how long they've been around, but my guess is they've been around for a while. Pretty spacious. I think more used than new, but they definitely had some new stuff, vinyl, lots of that, lots of CDs, tons of used CDs. They had a really cool like dollar bin right up front, and then a couple of racks of dollar bin stuff. They had cassettes. I know Alan, that's where he bought his like 8-track player that he started getting back into. But yeah, really cool store, and he knows the owners. He's there all the time. They seem really cool. But yeah, dug through there, found some stuff. So let's check it out. 2014, we get Licky Lee's album, I Never Learned. And that's a fitting title, perhaps, because I like Licky Lee. First discovered her probably from her first album. I saw a couple of her videos on the old show I always talk about, New York Noise, which I have a video all about. You can go check out. Maybe I'll put a link below. But she's really good. She's kind of like alternative and everything like that. And I have had her first 2 records, and then this record store was closing, and I found another one of her albums that I wasn't familiar with and picked it up because it was like, you know, discounted like crazy. And I really didn't like it. It sounded like she kind of shifted into more dance kind of music. Like there was always a little element of like dance or pop in her music, but it still kind of was seeped in alternative. But this record that I'm talking about was just like straight up dance pop, and it just didn't connect with me at all. I didn't really like it, so I got rid of it. And that was that. So I saw this was in the dollar bin there at Infinity. And I'm not familiar with this record either. I kind of remember the cover, kind of rings a bell, but none of the songs do. And I can't remember if this came out before or after that record I was talking about that I didn't really like. But it was $1. I figured I'll give it a shot, you know, and maybe this is more in line with her first 2 records that I liked. But yeah, just kind of really curious to see, and hoping for the best. Or will it be a question of I never learn? I told you it was going to pay off, didn't I? No, I didn't. I don't know. But nothing much in the booklet here, just some lyrics and stuff. But I actually saw her live. Like I went to this kind of benefit in Iceland when I was there, and there were a bunch of people at that show. Bjork, I think, was like the headliner, and Patti Smith and of Monsters and Men were there, and she was there. And they all came out and did just like maybe two or 3 songs. But yeah, really curious to see what we got here. Hopefully it's a good one, fingers crossed. 1985, we get Public Image Limited, better known to the cool people as Pill with a lowercase I, and I'm one of those cool people. Anyways, this is their album CD, compact disc. Of course, as a lot of you probably know, if you buy the vinyl of this, it just says album. If you buy the cassette, it says cassette. And in this case, compact disc. And this is kind of like, if you're not familiar, this was like the generic brand. Like if you went into the food store and bought just like cola or, you know, cornflakes. It was all this white label with just this lowercase like blue letters. I have a beer can that I got from Ralph's Supermarket in Los Angeles because this was their branding. Or you may be familiar with this from Repo Man. It's all over Repo Man. But I still have like one beer can from Ralph's that when they used to use this. I always use it as a prop in like if I'm doing a short film or something, I always throw that in there. But anyways, what am I talking about? We're here to talk about music, not groceries. But coming soon, Steve's grocery collection. Look for it, everybody. So this album is one that I've been wanting to pick up for a while. This one, I think, no, this wasn't in a dollar bin. I think I paid a couple of bucks for this one. But this was maybe the first time I really took notice of Pill with the song Rise. That was kind of really popular on like alternative rock and everything. I think Home maybe got a bit of airplay as well. I have a greatest hits album by them, and I had like a vinyl record by them, but that was sort of it. And even this, when I picked it up, I was kind of like, there have been a couple of times in the past where I've come across this record and thought about picking it up and passed on it because I have this best of that I feel like, you know, satisfies my pill fix, so to say. But again, I just saw this there and it just kind of got me on the right day finally, and I picked this up. If you're not familiar with Pill and you call them Public Image Limited, you know, this is Johnny Rotten's or John Lydon's band after he leaves the Sex Pistols. Handful of musicians, but some come and go. Kind of just this mix up different styles, dance, kind of funk. I don't know if any of it's really called punk, but alternative certainly. But just a bunch of different styles. I think they're still active. I know they kind of regrouped a new version, whatever, not too long ago, and maybe they put out a new record, or maybe they're just doing shows. I don't remember. I don't pay that much attention anymore, but yeah, I mean, there's a handful of this album I'm not familiar with, so I'm really kind of excited to finally check the rest of this one out. 1991. How long has it been since I've shown a cassette? A long time. Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. What am I doing buying a cassette? I'm the dude who's always like, why do people buy cassettes still? You know, it makes no sense. But, you know, a lot of you guys know I was a big Van Halen fan growing up. Not so much this version of the band, but I still, you know, when all said and done, Ed, Alan, Mike, I was still a huge fan of those guys, even when the band split. And I continued to support the band and buy their records and everything. And I like a lot of the music. I tolerate Sammy Hagar. But I didn't ever have this on cassette. And maybe a year or two ago, I found 5150 in a Goodwill for like a quarter on cassette. And I never had it on cassette. And that old, I don't collect Van Halen stuff anymore. But that old kind of like urge came back, and for a quarter I picked up the 5150 cassette, and I think that's what made me kind of want to have this for my cassette collection too. I don't listen to these things anymore. This is essentially just going to go in a case in a closet somewhere, but you know, I just kind of got that urge to pick this up. I have OU812. I didn't have this one, and just decided to pick it up. I remember getting this when it came out on CD. It's a good record. Probably like people who are fans of this version of the band, this is maybe their favorite one because it's a little, I think a lot of people had problems with the production of the earlier albums they did with Hagar. And I think this one, people felt that the production was, you know, up to par. And, you know, maybe it's a little heavier or something, you know. There's still some pop stuff on here, but maybe the other tracks are a little bit heavier, which, you know, pleased a lot of them. I mean, I liked it. It's honestly, when it comes to the Hagar version of this band, I like 5150. I don't really care about the electronic sounding drums. I like OU 812. I like the songs on those two albums the most. If I were ever going to listen to anything by that version of the band, it's probably from one of those two records. There's good songs on here, you know, but you know what, I don't know what I was thinking. It wasn't very expensive. It was maybe $3 to have this just to throw in the collection. It does feel like a stupid purchase, but there's even a stupider one coming up right now. More Van Halen featuring Sammy Hagar, a 45, a 7-inch for Love Walks In off of 5150. It's funny because me and Alan are sitting there or standing there in Infinity Records talking, and I think I showed him that, and he knows I'm not a big Hagar fan. He knows I'm a Van Halen fan, but I was telling him about that cassette and why I think I was going to buy it and everything. And we were just talking about that, and we were standing next to the 45s, and I glanced down and I saw this like sticking out, and I was like, speaking of, look at that. And I was just like looking at it, and he kind of talked me into buying it, you know. Like, I think I made a comment, and he's like, well, you know, it's there. You're never going to be here. Who knows when you'll ever be here again, or you'll find this. And I was just like, and I grabbed it, and I think it was like maybe $3, and I just instantly, like, afterwards, I was just like looking at it sitting in the passenger seat of my car, like, why did I buy it? It's not something I need. I have tons of Van Halen 45s, only a few from this version of the band, because I wasn't really going nuts collecting that stuff as much. But I don't know, man. I just picked it up, and it just was like, yeah, I didn't need to buy that. The back of this, the B-side, is Summer Nights. Like I said, I liked 5150, and the even weirder thing was maybe a day or 2 days before I went to Infinity, I don't know why this song in particular, and I was never crazy about these like power ballads that they did with Hagar, but I don't know what it was, but maybe I was reading something and somebody mentioned this song, and I was like, man, I haven't heard that song in probably 10 years or something. And I just pulled it up on YouTube to listen to it real quick, because I think I was laying in bed or something. And I mean, I got a little sentimental, because not so much for the band or anything, or Ed or whatever. I think it was because Ed had, you know, it was like the anniversary of him passing, but it just kind of brought me back, because like 1986, it was such kind of like this certain moment in my life, you know. I mean, my group of friends that, you know, are my lifelong friends, you know, I met a lot of them that year. I don't know, just kind of one of those kind of nostalgic, sentimental things, kind of, you know, I got caught up in as I was hearing this song, you know. And so I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I bought this. It's in pretty good condition. There's a tear up here, but you know, I'll throw this in my box of Van Halen vinyl, and it'll never see the light of day until I probably die and somebody gives all this stuff away for nothing. What a pleasant, happy thought, right? 2011, we get Ages and Ages and their album All Right You Restless. I have a couple of records by them, and I really like them. I had a chance to see them live, I think, in like Ithaca, New York, but it just didn't pan out. I wasn't familiar with this album at all. This was in one of the racks of all the, like I said, they have a bin of dollar bin stuff, and then they had a few racks kind of put in different places that also had dollar CDs, and I was looking through them, and I was like, oh, this must be like the older stuff, because I'm not finding anything. And then all of a sudden I saw this, and I was like, holy moly. I wasn't even aware of that band. I like that band, and I wasn't even aware of this album. So snatched it up, $1. Can't beat that. They're alternative, you know, just really like their other stuff. So this one I'm really curious to check out. Like I said, I don't know any of these songs at all. This album doesn't ring a bell at all either, you know. Not that I was really like keeping tabs on everything and anything this band was doing, but I feel like I would have thought this would have crossed my path at some point. But yeah, really cool pickup for $1. Like, not something I was looking for or anything like that, but this is one of those kinds of finds that you sometimes come across where you're just like, oh wow, this is like something I'm really interested in picking up. I'm glad I found this. So that's everything I got at Infinity. Like I said, really cool store. Highly recommend you checking it out if you're ever in that area. If you're curious as to why Alan Rosenberg was in the intro and he's not in this video, he goes there all the time. He didn't really find anything that day, but he's there like every week or whatever. But that's why I'm solo today doing this Infinity wrap-up video. But yeah, check them out for sure. Check out Alan's videos. Check out my friend Darren Paltrowich's podcast, his interviews and everything. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you another time later on, y'all.